up? It's Mr. Moon here, coming at you today with another video about how to lose weight. And this is coming off of some questions I've gotten recently, and I'm going to try and provide you with as much educational value as I possibly can in as short of amount of time. Hopefully it'll be relatively concise and understandable so to give you some actionable steps to lose weight. So the first question we have to ask is, are we doing this to get shredded or be healthy? Trick question. It's kind of the same thing, but that's going to affect your approach, okay? The first thing to understand is that if you build muscle at the same time that you're losing weight, you'll probably be more satisfied with the number on the scale sooner, okay? That does mean the number might go down slower, all right? The physical number. But what we're concerned with is fat loss primarily. I think that's generally what people mean when they say, hey, I need to shed a couple pounds, okay? The second question is counting calories. How do you do it? It could not be more simple, okay? So all you're literally going to do is go to, can I tap on it? Where's it at? There we go. CalorieCalculator.com. Okay, this is a great place to start. You just input all your information. I'll input my information. Okay, let me grab my keyboard. Age, 22, male, 5 foot, 11 inches. Weight, right now I am 182. Exercise, moderate exercise 4 to 5 times a week is about me. Calculate. Okay, and this actually shows you the numbers that it uses. We don't care about the formulas. Where's it at? Right here. I hit calculate. Calculate. There we go. Hit the wrong calculate button. So to maintain my weight, it says I need 2,549 calories a day, mild weight loss, extreme weight loss, okay? Then it'll give you like a zigzag diet schedule, which all that is just Sunday and Saturday you have more calories, and then the rest of the week you have that. There you go. It gives you various different schedules you can use. But basically, you don't have to have it right off the bat. So whatever it says for maintain weight, okay, just do that. Track your food throughout, a week, okay, and see if your body weight average goes up or down on the scale. And if it goes up, adjust the calories down a little bit by about 200. Go another week. See if it goes up again. If it does, adjust it down. Stays about the same, so adjust it down a little bit more. And that's weight loss made extremely simple. Now, how do you actually track? Well, you can use apps like MyFitnessPal, or I personally use VSync simply because I can scan barcodes for free, which is super duper useful if you're not somebody who likes to weigh things on a scale. I like to weigh things on a scale. I don't think it's that hard to weigh things on a scale, especially if you eat the same things every day. You can just weigh it once and then just make the same stuff and eat it. But understand, not everybody likes to do that, and they like to have a little bit more variety when they eat. But I think getting used to having less variety can make things a lot simpler, and it gives you less opportunities to cheat, okay? But how do you get around that? You scan your barcodes, and if it fits your macros. So how do we track macros then? Well, typically if you use an app, it tracks it for you. I know MyFitnessPal does, and so does VSync. But when you're tracking your macros, you probably want to stay within certain ranges. So I'll use men, for example. There's kind of two ways to go about it. You can do it percentage-wise. You can say, well, I'm going to do a 40-20-20 diet, 40-20-20 diet where 40% of my calories is protein, 20% is carbs, 20% is fats. I don't know if that's necessary because protein, there's a ceiling for protein. So let's take me for example. There's not a lot of point in me eating much more than 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, okay? So for me, anything more than 182 grams is just kind of you know what I mean? It's not really doing that much for me. There's some research coming out today that says you only need zero point 0.8 grams, so 80% of your body weight in pounds in protein, and that's neither here nor there. But as I think the gram per pound of body weight metric has been around a long time, and I would prescribe that personally. It's kind of just a good catch-all. The more protein you eat during a day, typically the more satiated you're going to feel, especially if you eat it first in a meal. So it's going to cause the rest of your food to digest slower. Carbohydrate wise, you don't need to be afraid of carbs. There's what's going to give you energy for the gym and energy throughout the day. The lower your carbs are, the more brain fog you're probably going to experience because your brain just runs on straight sugar. Now, your body can create sugar from fats and proteins, but we honestly don't want it doing that if we're trying to spare muscle tissue, meaning that in a calorie deficit we're trying to preserve as much muscle as possible. That way we don't have to drop as much weight. We're honestly trying to build a little bit of muscle. If you're new to the gym, good news, you can be in a deficit and grow quite a lot of muscle tissue. It doesn't really matter that much. Now, what about fats? Fats are your friend. They're going to regulate your hormones. In addition to that, they play a role in joint health, and you can cut out fats completely, but I don't really recommend that at all. But you got to be careful with them because they are over twice the amount of calories per gram compared to carbohydrates or protein. Protein is 4 calories per gram, carbs are 4 calories per gram, fats are 9 calories per gram, okay? And it's not really important that you know the chemistry of that, but it is useful when you're trying to calculate, something like a cheat day, or, if you're gonna overeat and you're going to have those bad days, you can be smart about being stupid, okay, if that makes sense. So the next thing to consider is, how much, right? So first, everything is determined by the amount of calories you're eating, okay, and your body weight. So let's just take me, for example, 182-pound individual. I would probably tell myself, 180 to 200 grams of protein, depending on. I can upward adjust protein in order to make myself feel more satiated while I'm eating less calories. So maybe I'll aim for, 200 just so I feel a little bit more full throughout the day. Then I have an essential level of fat. So for me, I feel pretty good on about 55 to 65 grams of fat a day. And I don't really need to adjust that at all unless I am very, very deep in a competition prep, right? Because in general, if you're doing a good job regulating your hormones, you don't need more, you don't need less. So protein and fat requirements stay pretty much the same. The only thing we're really manipulating is the amount of carbs we have, okay? Well, Gray, you just said that carbohydrates, if I get too low of those, I'm going to have a little bit of brain fog. My performance in the gym is likely going to suffer. And I'm probably overall going to be feeling pretty crappy throughout the day. Yes. You'll have to get comfortable with being a little bit hungry, but you can be smart about it. Choosing carbohydrate sources that are less dense and have more volume to them per calorie will help you a lot. So here's an example. You can eat, 200 carbs worth of straight corn syrup, and it's going to be like a little bowl of corn syrup, okay? That is an extremely dense carb source. Versus you could eat like 100 pounds of lettuce. You know what I mean? Now, no one's going to eat 100 pounds of lettuce and feel okay about it. There's also considerations about too much fiber. We'll get into that in a second, but generally speaking, fiber's your friend. Fiber's good for you. You don't want to OD on fiber though. So if you haven't been eating a lot of fiber for a while, and then you go from eating like 5 grams of fiber a day to 30 grams of fiber a day, that's going to make your GI tract do a backflip, and you're going to feel terrible, and you're going to be on that toilet. So how do we adjust that? Well, you just taper up fiber, okay? So that means when you first start a diet, you might feel, pretty hungry. But as we taper up your fiber levels, you'll start to feel a little bit more satiated and you'll adjust to it. What we don't want is, your gut bacteria not being used to that amount of fiber, and you just having, diarrhea all the time. That's terrible. And that's what will happen. That's why there's always that running joke about eating Fiber One bars. You know what I mean? People aren't used to that amount of fiber at one time, and so they have digestive issues. But we want carb sources with a lot of volume. An easy way to do that most people can tolerate is potatoes. Potatoes are probably your best friend on a cut. And if you like a good baked potato, cutting is a lot easier for you. Now, you got to be careful what you load it up with, right? Because if you just load it up with a ton of sour cream and cheese, you're just putting a bunch of fats on there, and so for some people that might fit into your diet, other people it might not. So there's little tricks that you can use to go around this sort of thing. So you can substitute in sour cream for Greek yogurt, and it tastes almost identical. Like you really can't tell the difference. And the Greek yogurt is going to have protein in it, so you can get in a little bit of extra protein. You put some chives on there, and some salt and pepper, and pretty good deal. I can't lie to you. So you can test your culinary skills by making smart swaps with certain foods and whatnot, okay? What you also have to understand is your relationship with food might mean that you struggle more than other people. So I had someone comment, how do I stop myself, it's about Christmas time, how do I stop myself from eating an entire box of them Little Debbie Christmas tree cakes? They are so good. I don't know if you ever had one of those, but they're amazing. And I could eat an entire box. I could put that away. So out of curiosity, let's just look up, let's go back here. Let's search Little Debbie Christmas tree cakes calories. What do we got? 220 calories in one of these cakes. Okay. Now that is a lot. And for just a little snack like that. Okay. I think that's the nutrition facts right there. Can we see that? Oh, you can make them at home. Cool. Regardless, 220 calories in that little cake is very dense. And I would say on a cut, it's not wise. But what you can do is two things. Number one, you can have one on a cut, okay? You could even have one every day on a cut. In theory, you could eat nothing but these and still lose weight. Now, I don't think there's a smart way to go about it. There was that experiment where that professor demonstrated that calories in, calories out is all that matters when it comes to actual weight loss. He ate Twinkies, for the entire year and lost weight, okay? Like with this, you could do the same thing, but I think you'll be feeling pretty crappy and you'll feel hungry all the time for sure. But you can have one of these on a cut. It's not going to kill you. So if it's 220 calories, let's just pretend it's all, sugar. 220 divided by 4 is like 55 grams of carbs, which is a lot for just a small little cake. If it was purely sugar, which we know it's not. But so how does that fit into a diet? Well, if you're eating, let's just say 2,000 calories, that is only 220 out of those 2,000 calories. If you're locked in on the rest of your meals for the day, that's not a big deal at all. In fact, if you're really motivated by a treat like this, like somebody who wants to eat an entire box of them in a day, you can just say, okay, here's my diet. It is 1,780 calories, okay? Rest of my meals, 1,780 calories. It's all high quality stuff. And at the end of the day, I get a Little Debbie Christmas tree cake, and I look forward to that. That's an okay way to go about it. I know other people that prefer to just have a cheat day, okay? Here's how you do a cheat day. You don't do it by starving yourself for the entire week, and then you get to say Friday, okay, and you say Friday's my cheat day, and you go and you just eat whatever. This is how that would look. Okay, let's pull up a new thing right here. This is how that looks. Okay, here's Monday. Oh, that's really thick. Here is, let's erase that. Here's Monday. Okay, and then here is the calories you're supposed to be eating. Okay, and Monday, you do good. Okay, you were supposed to be eating. Tuesday, you do good. Wednesday, you do good. Thursday, you're good too. Friday's your cheat day. Then what happens? You eat way up here, okay? Then Saturday, you feel terrible. So you eat way down here. And then Sunday, when Sunday rolls around, you're starving, and then you eat a little bit above again. Okay. That's not a good way to do it. Not only that, but let's just say this is like a 500 calorie deficit over here. So you have 500 plus 500 plus 500 plus 500. So you've essentially, you're 2,000 calories in the hole, which is a good thing. Okay, and then you overeat by 2,000 calories here. You undereat by probably 1,000 here, and then you overeat by 500 here. Congratulations. I mean, you basically did nothing all week through that cheat day. How you structure a cheat day that actually works is you do like this. Get my eraser out. Okay. So, right here, let's just say this is 2,000 calories. 2,000, okay? And I want a cheat day on Friday. Friday's my cheat day. What do I do? Well, I say 2,000 calories, by the way, is what I need to be in a 500 calorie deficit. So my maintenance calories, so if I eat at 2,000 calories for the entire week, I'm in a deficit of 500 times 7, which is 3,500 calories, which is roughly equivalent to 1 pound of fat. Will you lose exactly 1 pound of fat in a week by eating in a 500 calorie deficit? No, not exactly, okay? It doesn't work like that perfectly, but over enough time of eating like that, yes. Does that make sense? You approach that, okay? Because you're going to have fluctuations in water and stuff like that, which we'll get into a little bit later here. And it doesn't always necessarily translate into 1 pound of fat exactly, okay? But if you did that over the course of, let's say, 6 months, a year, whatever, pretty much, yeah, okay, 3,500 calories is about a pound of fat, okay? So this is how I would do a cheat day. 2,000 calories puts me in the deficit I need. We're going to subtract that, and we're only going to go 1,800 calories on Monday, okay? And we're going to eat at 1,800 calories through here and also right here. So what does that, where does that mean? We have an extra 200 calories for each day. So 200, 400, 600, 800, 1,000, 1,200. So now on Friday, at an additional 1,200, we can eat 3,200 calories, okay? Which is significantly more than 2,000, okay? But we're keeping it controlled. And guess what? If you average all these numbers, you're going to get 2,000, okay? Now, is your body weight, this is what your body weight's going to do. Your body weight's going to look like, oh, okay, we're decreasing. Then Saturday and Sunday it's going to spike, it's going to come back up. But that's okay because the average is decreasing. So if you compare your body weight average across a week, you're going to get a much better picture of what changes are occurring in your body. And that's important for your mindset, okay? So let's go back to this page. We talked about how to control your cravings, pick high volume foods, allow yourself to have foods that you like. Just keep it controlled, keep it tracked, and try and eat clean 80% of the time, okay? And understand when you make slightly poorer choices, you're going to probably have to deal with a little bit more hunger, okay? You can make boring food delicious. Jambalaya is delicious, and it's not that high calorie if you do it right. You can make plenty of amazing soups, amazing salads, amazing food that is not high calorie. And honestly, that's the food that you prefer to eat, okay? Most people, hey, let's go get a nice dinner. What are they getting? They're getting like a steak dinner and some potatoes, okay? And making this just a switch to like a baked potato with Greek yogurt instead of, like a loaded baked potato. You can even put bacon bits on that baked potato, dog. You could even put some lower calorie cheese, put a little bit of cheese on there. You don't need to destroy it with cheese. You don't need to like put an avalanche of stuff on there. You just got to have a little bit of discipline to not go crazy every time and make like slightly better choices 80% of the time. That's what it comes down to, is you just got to make simple choices 80% of the time. It's the consistency that's going to kill you, okay? That's the hard part, is being consistent on it for a long enough period of time. And once you're like, I won't lie to you. You know, something that's made really well is like 100% of the flavor. If you're willing to take a hit on just having 80% of the flavor, sometimes 90, most of the time, like, you're going to be okay. Not everything has to be hyper palatable. And I think for a lot of people struggling with weight loss, that's the hardest thing to understand. Especially considering stuff like fast food. Like, I don't think anyone legitimately thinks fast food is the, best tasting thing in the world. I just think it's easy and it tastes good enough. If you can set up systems where you can eat food that's easy and tastes good enough, you'll survive. And keeping lean is relatively easy. You just have to put in the effort of cooking for yourself most of the time. That's the hardest part. Or you can sign up for if you have the money for it, sign up for like one of those Factor meal plan things. That food's really high quality, like super good. I had one time. It's like, might as well do something like that, you know what I'm saying? And eat that most of the time. Work that into a diet. They track the macros on that. But let's continue. So keeping a realistic mindset. So the amount of weight you should lose in a week depends on your starting point. If you take a person who is 300 pounds, they can probably be pretty aggressive with their weight loss in the beginning and not suffer any dire consequences. It's just the way it is. They have a lot more fat to lose. So if you can taper them down pretty quick. Starting even with something like 2,500 calories is going to result in significant weight loss for a lot of very overweight people. And then the other thing to keep in mind is, as you get leaner, your weight loss should probably slow just a little bit to something sustainable. That's the key part, is keeping it sustainable, where you don't feel like you're dying every day. You'll have to push in the last part of a weight cut. You have to push that uncomfortability so that you can sit at a lean state and kind of adjust to being there. And then, either eat at maintenance, or I recommend tapering out of it as you build up muscle. Not being afraid to increase the calories again, and just lift, right, and put yourself in a state where you don't feel so, sucked down and tired. Which again, I stress, this is only like the last couple weeks of a serious weight cut. For general population, if you're just trying to get relatively healthy and lean, you don't have to worry about this. You should set up systems where it's easy to not screw up most of the time and maintain your same body weight and go to the gym 3 times a week, to build a little bit of muscle. So realistic mindset for most people is going to be, in between a half pound and 2 pounds a week, depending on your starting point. And how to not go insane and live life. Basically what I said before, you're going to have times where you eat out, and you're going to have times where you screw up. And the thing is, it's always a deliberate screw up most of the time. It's very rarely an unintentional screw up. You're going to have those moments, and you're going to know it's deliberate, and you're going to beat yourself up about it. But the thing to remember is that you just have to get back on the horse. And that's what I always say, is if you fall off the horse, you got to get right back on it before you have a chance to think about it. Because the second you think about it, this is the second you're going to throw it all in the trash can. I know I'm a person who catastrophizes everything. And if you allow that mindset to persist, it's just going to hold you back. You can mess up a lot and still be okay. You know what I mean? You have to compare those averages across the week. I've even had times where I've been training a client and they screw up really bad during the week and they're still down on average. And so it's okay, you know. Comparing weekly averages is one of the biggest tips I can give because it keeps you sane for when things go awry. You're going to have to go out to eat. You're going to have to go out to a wedding. And you're probably not going to make smart choices all the time there. But you can make smart choices 80% of the time. Anybody can make smart choices 80% of the time. If it were anything else, like finances, people would have no sympathy for you. They would say budget. They would say you need to be smarter about where you're putting your money. And all I'm suggesting is you need to be smarter about where you're putting your calories and macros 80% of the time. You know, you can go out and buy stuff that's frivolous every month, once in a while, and it's not going to kill you, just like, you know, you can enjoy life. But having a targeted approach and having a plan to fall back on during times of trial is what's important here. You know, if you want to think about it like anything, think about it like you're in debt to yourself years from now. You've eaten the food you're supposed to have, you know, 3 years ahead of time, and now we're working on repaying that debt, right? And that's all it is. It's not as, black-pilled, as some people would say, as a lot of people want to make it out. It's very achievable for way more people than you think. But yeah, I think I'll end it right there. If you have any questions about tracking calories or macros or anything I've covered in this video, please leave a comment down below and I will do my best to address it in a timely manner.